Shalom, it's Tehila from the Kefar. I've been teaching Hebrew online since 2015. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some strategies that you can use to lower the anxiety levels of your language students. So this particular form of anxiety is called foreign language anxiety, sometimes called second language anxiety. And it presents itself in different ways. And regardless of whether you're just teaching one-on-one, you have individual students, or if you're working with larger groups, whether you're working with children or adults, all of those different ages and different groups can present anxiety when it comes to learning a language, and you can use these strategies for all of them. And so before we get into the strategies, let's just talk really quickly about what we mean by foreign language anxiety and what it can look like. So foreign language anxiety, again, sometimes called second language anxiety or language learner anxiety, refers to feelings of apprehension or worry, nervousness, discomfort that generally arise or most commonly arise when a student needs to listen and understand the target language, or they need to speak in the target language. And by target language, we mean whatever the language is that the student is learning. And so language anxiety can manifest itself differently from student to student. For some students, it might make them start talking way too fast. For other students, it makes them really, really slow down and just talk really, really slow. It can cause other students to stutter. And particularly for children, it can manifest as avoidance or refusal to participate, where it's not that they don't want to, but it's the anxiety that's making them fearful of participating. There are physical reactions like blushing or getting flushed, sweating, increased heart rate, clammy palms, all sorts of things that we also see with other forms of anxiety. You can also see in the language classroom with your students. And so now that you know how to define that anxiety and what it can look like, the first strategy is to talk about it openly with your students. Again, whether you're working one-on-one or whether you're working in larger groups, talk about what that anxiety feels like, if it's something that they experience, and where it comes from. For a lot of students, the source of the anxiety is a fear of making mistakes, a fear of looking or sounding stupid. And so once you have this discussion of where that anxiety is coming from, the source of it, then you as the instructor can work either with your individual student or as a class to create a sort of environment that is encouraging to the student. And if you yourself as an instructor are also learning another language, or whether you learned the language that you are currently teaching, it can also be really helpful to share your own experiences. I've talked about my experiences as a Hebrew learner here on YouTube, and I also share it with my students openly. That can be really reassuring and really encouraging to hear your strategies on how you overcame it enough to where you are now able to teach the language. Another strategy is to be really strategic about how you correct errors. There are different ways in which you can correct errors. It doesn't always have to be direct. It doesn't always have to be in the moment. It really just depends on the situation. Okay, and this is especially important because, as I mentioned earlier, the source of anxiety for a majority of students is a fear of making mistakes. And so you just want to make sure that you're dealing with those mistakes and with those errors in as thoughtful of a way as possible, so that you are, again, helping to lower that anxiety and not raise it. And if you're interested in learning more about error correction strategies, let me know that in the comments below. And so a third strategy is to make sure that you are giving appropriate tasks, that the things that you are asking of your language learners are things that they can actually do. Otherwise, they end up feeling frustrated, they end up feeling discouraged, and that just raises the anxiety levels, which of course is the opposite of what it is that we want to do. So if you have an exercise or a lesson or whatever it is, and you notice that the student is really struggling, take a moment to pause, dial it back, and see where you need to make the adjustments. Of course, you always want to provide a little bit of a challenge. You want to push them a little bit because that's where the learning happens. But you want to find that balance of giving a little bit to where they're challenged, but they can still complete the assignment, versus giving something that's completely inappropriate in terms of their language abilities at the time. Okay, and one of the great things about teaching privately, one of the things that I love the most, is the ability to stop if I need to stop in the middle of a lesson or at the beginning or whenever, and make adjustments based on what my students need as opposed to what I'm supposed to be covering for the day. So that's definitely a benefit that we have as private language teachers, that you can make sure that what it is that you're doing is most appropriate for your students at that time. And so the final strategy that I want to share is to teach survival phrases explicitly. Survival phrases are things like, I didn't understand, I didn't get that, can you say it again? Can you slow down? How do you say, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, these are all super useful for beginner language learners from the very beginning of class. And so it just helps them feel a little bit less lost when they can at least ask for help or they can express something that they need right away. And if you can keep these phrases visible during class, that's great. If you use a background while you're using Zoom or another meeting tool, you can add the survival phrases into your background and use that. You can also put them in whatever document it is that you're sharing. You can share them on your screen. You can send it out to students. However you do it, you just want to make sure that they have access to those phrases from the very beginning until they've acquired them and can use them on their own. Okay, so just to recap, 4 strategies that you can use to lower the anxiety levels of the students in your class are to acknowledge the anxiety explicitly, talk about where it comes from, share your own experiences, be really strategic and thoughtful about when and how you correct errors. Make sure that your students are able to do what it is that you're requiring them to do. So making sure that your tasks and your assignments are appropriate for their language levels. And teach survival phrases explicitly and either post them or provide them to students so that they can have them as long as they need them. Okay, so that's it for today's video. Toda la tzfia. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in teaching language online, visit me at thekefar.com/teachinglanguageonline. Let me know what strategies you would add to this list to the comments below. Check out these additional videos and I will see you for the next video. Lehitraot.